Hey there, and welcome to the Galaxy S21 battery test, the one where we have not just the fancy Ultra model, but also the S21 Plus and the S21, and against them the iPhone 12, the Galaxy S20 FE, and the Pixel 5. You know, the more affordable phones that most people will actually buy. And the great thing for this test is that you also get to see the actual differences in battery life between the three new S21 models. So you know exactly whether it would be worth getting the Ultra for its bigger battery and more power efficient screen over the Plus. Or if you prefer a compact sized phone like I do, you would know how the smaller Galaxy S21 compares against the bigger phones and how much less is its battery life. As for the rules, as always, we have all the phones set to the same brightness level of 200 nits before the start of the test, and we're running each of the phones with the default settings that make the most sense. So the Galaxies are all running at 120 Hz. The Pixel also runs at 90 Hz. And as for the iPhone, well, Apple doesn't give you any other options, so it runs at 60 Hz. I guess it has an unfair advantage in that regard, because 60 Hz uses far less power. But once again, the idea is to show you how much the phones will last the way people would actually use them. Anyway, you know how phone makers always tell you that their latest product is the greatest that they have ever made, and it brings huge improvements. Well, last year Samsung released its S20 phones with the Exynos 990 chip outside the US, and well, it was a bit of a disappointment. But this year, Samsung wants to make up with consumers and it wants to fix all the wrongs. And that's why the company held a big unveiling event, presenting the new and supposedly finally fixed Exynos 2100 chip. So far so good, and all three S21 phones here come with the Exynos chip, so we can now really see if the new chip lives up to the expectations. By the way, right now you see running our web browsing test. All phones are connected to the same Wi-Fi network, and we use a script with the same web pages loading up and scrolling up and down to simulate real-life use. It's pretty cool watching these phones run like little robots on their own. Well, wait for the result, but the video you see running is a placeholder run, keep that in mind. Anyway, we have to fast forward time until one of these phones dies, and the first one to tap out is the Galaxy S21. Even though it has a 4000 mAh battery that is much bigger than the one on the iPhone, it taps out before it, lasting only 7 hours and 47 minutes on this test, which is, well, not great. Keep in mind though that it uses 120 Hz, while the iPhone, for example, uses 60 Hz, so that makes a difference. And as we speak, the next phone to die is the Galaxy S20 FE, with a score of 10 hours and 2 minutes. The FE that we have actually runs on a Qualcomm processor, the Snapdragon 865. And interestingly, the S21 Plus outlasts it, which is a good sign. The Plus also has a bigger battery though, 4800 mAh against 4500 mAh on the FE. And speaking of the Plus, it's the next one to tap out, with a score of 10 hours and 50 minutes. That might not seem like a great score, the iPhone is still running, but don't forget that Galaxies are running at 120 Hz, which consumes more power, and they would last a lot longer if used at 60 Hz. So right now we have three phones left, which still keep on going until finally the Pixel 5 dies. Now the compact Pixel has a 4000 mAh battery, but it has proven to last a very long time. And this test confirms it. The time on the clock is 11 hours and 26 minutes. Great showing. Okay, let's speed things up and see which one will win this test. And it's not the iPhone 12. You did not expect the small iPhone, despite the optimizations Apple makes in the Safari browser, to beat the Ultra, did you? The iPhone finishes with a score of 12 hours and 33 minutes, which is very good, but let's not forget it is the only phone in this test running in 60 Hz, so it's got that advantage. And finally, the Galaxy S21 Ultra is the winner, and it will keep on going for a couple more hours. The 5000 mAh battery, coupled with the power-efficient adaptive display, grants you a full 14 hours and 43 minutes, and yes, that's at 120 Hz. This is just very good, and it's great battery life, and interestingly, the Ultra lasts quite a bit longer than the Plus model, despite the otherwise small difference in battery size. Our bet is that the thicker body allows for heat to dissipate faster on the Ultra, and it also has that wider range in terms of adaptive display refresh rate. So here's a recap of all the results. Notice that we also show you the score for each phone running at 60 Hz, and those scores are significantly better, so we do recommend switching to 60 Hz if battery life is your top priority. Alright, let's go with test number 2, video streaming. Watching videos drains the battery quicker than just browsing the web, so if you're curious which is the best phone for you if you watch a lot of YouTube videos or Netflix on your phone, well, that's a great test. We have once again all the phones lined up and ready to play the same playlist on YouTube at the same settings, and let's go through this one test faster and speed it up until one of the phones dies and boom! This time it's the iPhone 12 that first taps out on this test. It's very interesting. iPhones are usually very well optimized for web browsing and Safari, but you may have noticed that if you watch YouTube videos, the battery drains very quickly on iPhones, and this test confirms that. Not surprisingly, the next phone to bite the dust is the small Galaxy S21. But while it underperformed a bit in web browsing, here it runs at a respectable 7 hours and 36 minutes of YouTube playback. Not bad for a compact phone. So let's fast forward again until the next phone dies, and that is the Galaxy S21 Plus, finishing with a result of 8 hours and 27 minutes. And a few moments after that, the small Pixel 5 taps out. And it's interesting that the tiny Pixel runs actually a bit longer than even the plus-sized Galaxy. We would guess that there is some special sauce in the Snapdragon chip that is just not there on the Exynos ones, that helps get the higher scores for video streaming. But let us know if you have any theory as to why this happens. You can tell us in the comments, we'd be curious to know. Anyway, at this point in time we have just the Galaxy S20 FE and the Galaxy S21 Ultra left to run, and what do you know? It's the S21 Ultra, the one that first taps out with a final score of 8 hours and 52 minutes, while the Fan Edition has a bit more gas in the tank and finishes shortly after it with a bit over 9 hours. And once again, let's recap all the scores. The iPhone did the worst on this test, and surprisingly, the Fan Edition wins over the Ultra. So this begs for an explanation. Of course, battery testing is first a difficult task, which takes us very long days, and the results we get between runs of the same test can differ by a few minutes, so they're not perfectly exact. But we seem to see a trend, and that is that the S21 series with that new chip do very well with just browsing the web or lighter loads, and also do good for video streaming, but not quite exceptionally well. And that compact S21 that I was lusting after, well, I think I will give it a go. Its battery life is definitely worse than on the bigger models, that's noticeable, but it beats the iPhone 12 that I was using before in the video test, and that's the main thing I do on my phone. So what about you? Are you planning on getting one of the new S21 phones? And which one would you go for? All the way for the Ultra, or would you be fine with an S21 or S21 Plus? Now, if you enjoyed this video, a sub to the channel would be great, and hit that bell icon to get the newest videos first. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. We're always looking for better ways to test battery life on phones, so chime in with your comments below. My name is Vic, this is PhoneArena, and I will see you around.